Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. The watercolor of the shop I painted today is very vibrant. Such colors are uplifting, and I highly recommend friends who are feeling down to paint such warm-toned watercolors. It is dominated by red, complemented by the adjacent color yellow and the contrasting color blue. It just happens to be the three primary colors. An absolutely beautiful color combination. As long as you grasp the dominant color and bring out the layers, you can complete this piece of work very well. Spraying water while painting can keep the paper moist and prevent hard edges from forming. When applying the first layer of color, try to include all the dominant hues and also add some variations in the shades of the colors. However, avoid using colors that are too dark. Remember to add more water to maintain the transparency of the colors. The key point of the first layer of coloring is to use colors to depict the structure. It's not just about the colors themselves, but more importantly, the proportional relationships between different colored areas. For example, the proportion of yellow in the upper half is less than one half. In the lower half, the red shop area on the left is slightly larger than that on the right. The large window is divided into three parts, with the windows on the left and right having the same width, while the middle window is a bit larger. By observing these proportional relationships before starting to paint, you can have a clear plan in mind. The window at the top has a symmetrical structure. I was also worried about not being able to draw it well when I was painting it. This is because it's relatively easy to grasp the horizontal and vertical lines, but the curves are much more challenging. They rely entirely on intuition. However, I think using a pencil to make a sketch next time should produce better results. Using a pencil to make a sketch allows you to erase any incorrect lines, and when coloring, the color blocks will be cleaner. The green plants in front of the window can be drawn more simply. Even if you don't draw the leaves, people will still know they are plants. So, just roughly outline their shape, and you can ignore many of the detailed variations. The most challenging part of the entire picture is the two symmetrical arched windows. First of all, there must not be a significant difference in size between them, which is really difficult. That's also why I've decided to use a pencil to make a sketch in the future. In this painting, the two windows I drew clearly look different in size. Using short straight lines to draw arcs is a good method, similar to the principle of constructing a round chimney with rectangular bricks. The orange wall bricks are definitely worth painting, because that is also what attracted me to this photo and became the original motivation for me to paint it. Next, I'll paint the large window and the three benches. Start with the large structures, determine the proportional relationships between them, and then add details to the large structures. This way, you can quickly complete the outline sketch. For the small section of wall bricks in the middle, I used a brown 0.3mm waterproof outlining pen because I wanted to add some variation. Since there is already a first layer of base color, the brick wall part only needs a few strokes of color to be completed. The next step is to paint the basic color and then deepen it layer by layer. If you are confident, you can also deepen it in one go. I usually can't do that, and I also like the effect of colors looking layered. The reflection on the glass also needs to be roughly drawn. Since it's not the focus, I didn't make it very clear. The green plants are painted with only three colors, ignoring the details, in order to highlight the texture of the brick wall. If I were to add the small leaves, even though it would be a relatively simplified way of painting, it would make the entire picture look messy and further diminish the beauty of the brick wall. Therefore, it is not a good choice. Next, paint the lower half red. You need to mix enough paint in advance to avoid having to mix more halfway through, which could cause water stains at the joints. Leave highlights at the corners. The remaining parts can just be painted evenly. That is to apply the basic color to the remaining parts. Now, let's look at the colors inside the house. Because of the lighting, the overall tone will be warm, and it will be a deep red with a hint of deep purple. Since the entire window is divided into many small panes, it is very convenient to paint. Since the red is not rich or bright enough, another layer needs to be painted. The darker parts need to be mixed with burnt umber and dark purple. The red in the lighter areas also has subtle color differences, which can be ignored in a quick sketch. However, if you are interested, you can also try to mix reds with differences. The door on the left is a very dark and beautiful orange. You can use orange to mix with ochre or burnt umber to get the right shade. The entrance has a similar color, just with different shades. Next, paint the shadows of the green plants. You can mix a dark red by combining the original vermilion with magenta and burnt umber, and then add a bit of dark blue. If it looks too cool, you can mix in a little ochre. Don't add black at this point, or you'll end up with a muddy red. Use the same dark red to paint the other shadow areas. The floor where the bench is placed is a blue with a slight purple tint. This color is somewhat deep and has a medium saturation with a grayish tone. Now I'm going to use gouache to paint these 3 golden lamps. Watercolor doesn't have such strong covering power. I usually combine it with other tools to achieve the result I want. I used 4 colors to paint these lamps: white, lemon, yellow, ochre, and orange. Next, I'm going to use this very fine-tipped watercolor pen to paint the metal parts. I'm guessing it's metal, but I'm not sure. I chose a color similar to ultramarine to start with. This hard-tipped pen is much easier to control than a soft bristled watercolor brush. Then I switched to a thicker, soft-tipped watercolor pen, the kind used by children. The colors are bright and don't bleed, which makes them very easy to use. This area appears almost black in the picture, but I don't want to paint it as a dark, oppressive black, so I try to add some blue or purple to make the picture less rigid. Next, I need to deepen the red shadow areas. Then paint the dark blue at the bottom of the pillar. If you look closely, this dark blue actually has variations in shade. Although from a global perspective, this variation seems too subtle, it still needs to be roughly painted. The dark orange inside the door is really beautiful. I feel like I didn't capture that beautiful feeling. It might also be because this dark color in the room is not very conspicuous in the whole picture. I also really like the diamond pattern inside. I deepened the color inside the window frame. Next, I used the white gouache to brighten the window frame and enhance the contrast. Now I'm going to deepen the dark blue at the base of the wall. Finally, I'm going to paint the bench. I used burnt umber mixed with a very small amount of red to paint the shadow parts of the bench legs.